Hey guys, First Regardsman here, and so I'll be talking about upcoming content for Space Marine 2's patch 13, what the new Terminus level boss enemy will actually be, and what chapters we can expect from the Iron Hands chapter pack. And more importantly, what we know about the release date and when we can expect patch 13 to come out. Now, Space Marine 2 just had its biggest update in year 2 with the release of Techmarine last month, which actually came out a bit later than Saber originally intended. Both the Techmarine patch 12 update and patch 13 were set for quarter 1 of 2026, but at this point, it does seem unlikely that we'll be seeing a patch 13 in quarter 1. We don't even have a public test server date for this patch yet. The community managers over at Focus have stated we will be getting an updated roadmap fairly soon. They have also said over at Focus that they expect April at the earliest for a patch launch, and the more likely date for a full patch would be sometime in May. So I would expect April for a public test server launch, and an official patch to be in mid-May, maybe early May, but that seems to be a little bit of a stretch. Space Marine 2's major patches tend to come out 2 to 3 months apart from each other, and considering we just had the official release of patch 12 less than a month ago, I would not expect anything from March or early April. There will be more info on the official release date in the coming weeks, but for now, that is all the information we have on when we can expect this patch. I'm sure some people will think that's an excessive time period between new content updates, but Space Marine 2 has always dropped content like this since launch, so a lot of the community is used to it by now. But as far as what is actually coming out with patch 13, we do actually have a lot more info on this. The roadmap for year 2 says that patch 13 will be bringing us a brand new Terminus Enemy, a new PvE operation, and a progression update, on top of a new cosmetic DLC chapter pack for the Iron Hands founding chapter, and the Battle Barge expansion that was originally supposed to come out with patch 12 but got pushed back a bit. Now, the first thing we'll be talking about here is the new Terminus enemy. We have not had a randomized on-mission boss like the Carnifex, Hellbrute, and Neurothrope add to the game since launch. But according to data mines, the new Terminus level enemy will be for the Thousand Suns Chaos faction, and we can expect this to be an occult Terminator sorcerer. I'm not particularly surprised the faction receiving a new Terminus enemy is Chaos. We've been stuck with just the Hellbrute for them since launch, and they've also only received one on-mission boss with the Vortex Beast versus the base game Hive Tyrant, and post-launch Trigon plus Tyranid Prime fights we've gotten for the Tyranids already. So they are definitely overdue a new boss fight, because I for one am sick of just fighting Hellbrutes over and over in Chaos Ops. Now, these Terminator sorcerers are usually equipped with an Inferno Combi Bolter in one hand and a Force Staff or Khopesh in the other hand on the tabletop. We can actually see that in the data mines that they do indeed have a Force Staff, and also what appears to be a Bolter option on the other hand. And as far as how they actually fight in combat, they will usually buff their allies on top of dealing their own damage on the tabletop, so I would expect something like that in game as well. I'd imagine we see some unique mechanics for them in this game, as they are a post-launch boss, and the end mission boss fights they've added post-launch have been a bit more complicated than the launch bosses we had initially. Though personally, I would have preferred something like a Forge Fiend or a Zinj Soul Grinder, or maybe even something like an Exalted Pink Horror, because we really don't have that many demons in Space Marine 2. Since contrary to popular belief, Zangors are actually just a type of Beastman, and even the Mutilative Vortex Beast, despite popping out of an actual warp portal, is not technically a demon either, and is simply a warp mutated abomination. But that being said, a Terminator Sorcerer does fit the current lineup of Thousand Suns in the game more, and the only thing I don't want to see from this boss is just a nightmare of range spam. The last thing I think the Thousand Suns need are more ranged enemies, and the ranged gameplay loop in Space Marine 2 is just significantly less engaging than its melee loop, and I think that Saber agrees, because Chaos Spawn are pretty much pure melee, and made Chaos as a faction significantly less range spam, and ended up indirectly buffing Assault against Chaos as a result. So hopefully they keep that up with the new Terminator boss fight and give him some melee combos and interactive mechanics, so he feels more engaging to fight than the lesser sorcerers do in game currently with their skull spam and shields. Something I think would be really cool is if they went back and replaced the lesser sorcerer quote-unquote boss fight at the end of Obelisk with the new boss, because that mission's finale, while it looks phenomenal, is severely undercooked in my and many others' opinion, and having a proper sorcerer guarding the Obelisk that is helping maintain their entire invasion force from the campaign would do a lot for that mission's entertainment value, though I doubt they'll actually wind up doing that. But let me know what you guys think about having a Terminator Sorcerer as a new boss in Space Marine 2. Did you have a different boss in mind, or did you even want another boss for Chaos at all? I imagine this choice in Terminus Enemy will be fairly controversial, considering a lot of players avoid Chaos as a faction altogether in this game, and would have much preferred another Tyranid boss for an on-mission spawn. Now, on the topic of other things coming to this update, we do have a progression overhaul or improvements in the work. We don't really have any information on what this is going to be just yet, but the current grind for Space Marine 2 has become, in many people's opinion, myself included, a bit excessive, as the game has added multiple prestige levels that are practically required to make certain builds even function, and leveling each class to max alone can take 10 plus hours each, and to unlock everything in the game, that can take upwards of 200 hours. That wouldn't really be a problem if the content was engaging to level up in, but after your first 25 levels, it really does start to just feel like a slog in my opinion, and unlocking your perks to only lose them 4 times over feels terrible. So hopefully, the major thing they address here is the actual leveling experience for your class, because I don't think weapons and armory data are in a particularly bad spot. Some people don't like the weekly and daily accolades grind, but I actually think the accolades grind is okay, mainly because it's a huge part of player retention, even if it can be a bit annoying for brand new players. Though I am curious to know what the community would like to see from a progression update, and where you think Space Marine 2 is seriously lacking when it comes to leveling grind. Now, the next major DLC pack we are getting with patch 13 will be for the Iron Hands as a chapter pack. I've seen a lot of people talk about this being a champion skin for Techmarine, and this is not the case, and champion skins are separate DLC from chapter packs in Space Marine 2. Chapter packs are just cosmetic items relating to a specific chapter that have transferable pieces across all classes, and champion packs are specific outfits made for a single chapter with fewer transferable pieces usually. Though in the case of Techmarine, we do actually have a leak that there will be a Iron Hands champion skin for him eventually. This isn't actually on the roadmap currently, unless this were to come with the chapter pack, which is unlikely, but who knows. Either way, the Iron Hands Techmarine is actually coming, so if that's something you're waiting for, you can look forward to that. And as far as what successor chapters are going to be part of this cosmetic pack, well, we've had leaks for at least 4 of these already. Starting off with the Red Talons, these are a fairly popular successor chapter of the Iron Hands, mostly known for being incredibly bloodthirsty, even executing all the members of their chapter who followed the Moirai Creed during the Moirai Schism, whereas other chapters, including the Iron Hands themselves, just exiled their Moirai members. So the Red Talons are pretty hardcore, and as the name would obviously suggest, they also wear red armor. The next leak chapter we have here are what I call the Clown Marines with the Brazen Claws. These guys are notoriously hard to paint on the tabletop, at least for beginners. They are known for being pretty stoic, just like their founding chapter, the Iron Hands, and once they even dove into the Eye of Terror for a 20-year crusade that just ended up with some of them getting chaos corrupted. Probably not the best idea ever, but to be fair, most 40k chapters do some pretty stupid shit sometimes. The next chapter on the list here are the Iron Lords. Now, Iron Lords are incredibly underrated in my opinion, mainly because this chapter is the Iron Hands equivalent of the Black Templars with a particular hatred for Xenos. They're also one of the only chapters to go toe-to-toe with the Bargessi, which are a lesser-known yet highly dangerous Xenos faction that really does not get brought up a ton in 40k. But the Tyranid High Fleet Kraken did try to consume the Bargessi at one point in time to harvest them, and the Iron Lords were mostly responsible for preventing that from happening, so pretty big win for the Imperium from these guys, even if I often call them the Pants Marines because their armor color looks like they've got brown trousers on. Now, the final successor chapter we know we'll be getting are the Sons of Medusa. These are arguably the most popular successor chapter of the Iron Hands in 40k. They showed up briefly in the Astartes 2 trailer, and they are formed from the remnants of the Moirai Schism, which was a civil war between the Mechanicus that the Iron Hands took part in, and unlike the Red Talons, the other chapters didn't execute all of their Moirai Creed brethren after the war, and instead exiled them. Eventually, all of those exiled chapter members formed their own chapter, and now we have the Sons of Medusa, who actually went on to be pretty instrumental in conflicts like the Badab War, so I definitely suggest checking them out if you don't know much about them. But those are all of the confirmed chapters for the cosmetic pack in patch 13. Now, I've heard some grumbling about the lack of Steel Confessors and Knights of Byzantium, but the thing is, a lot of the other successor chapters don't have official Primaris color patterns yet, so that is likely why we got these 4, and the others were left out for now. We will probably get some other Iron Hands clan icons on top of these guys as well, so there is that. And you have to remember, these are just leaked chapters and are not 100% confirmed to be the only chapters available, and there could be more beyond these leaks. Similar things have happened in the past with the Techmarine's weapon loadout, where we got more melee weapons than the original data mines would have suggested on the official launch. You know which successor chapters you want to see. I know a lot of you are probably already big fans of Sons of Medusa, and those are my personal favorite alongside the Iron Lords as well, so I'm sure some people will be satisfied with the current lineup of these 4. Now, as far as some other cosmetic items coming out with patch 13, we do know from the previous community posts that Saber does intend to expand upon both knee pads and chapter markings. We also know we'll be getting getting things like Emperor's Children among other heretic legions like Iron Warrior markings with this, and I'm pretty shocked at the addition of Emperor's Children heraldry because previously Saber said that we'd never get them in this game, but I guess they were only talking about a full-on playable Heretic Astartes in the PvP Eternal War mode and not operations-based heraldry. Now we'll also be getting new knee pad markings on top of the shoulder customization. Though we don't know exactly what chapter this will be for, I expect it will contain options similar to the shoulder options we get with this patch as well. But let me know what chapters you would like to see added as heraldry customization. They're actually adding in my favorite Blood Angel successors, the Angels in Carmine, so I'm definitely going to be rocking that one eventually. And the final thing I want to talk about here is the Battle Barge expansion. Now, this is supposed to be a training arena where you can test builds and weapons. How substantial the features of this will be, we don't know for sure yet. The PC version of the game already has an incredibly well-made mod with the testing arena with a ridiculous amount of features, and I really do not expect that Sabers will be remotely as intricate. It might not even have the damage numbers because a lot of things like strength meters in this game are not properly presented to the player already. So I would keep my expectations for the Battle Barge expansion in check because I don't think this mode will be as big as some people want. And that is pretty much everything we know about patch 13's content drops and the potential release window. Now I'm curious to hear the Space Marine 2 community's response to the new boss, especially. A Terminator Sorcerer is probably not what a lot of people had in mind initially, but I'm looking forward to the boss the most out of this patch because it has been a year and a half with no new random map spawns for bosses at all. Hopefully we could even see something like the Tyranid Primes getting added to the operations and maybe even Siege mode as new boss additions for map spawns one day, since they'd actually fit pretty well into the current state of the game. I know a lot of players have requested that, so we'll see if Saber even incorporates them. But that is all I have to say in this one, guys. Patch 13 is probably getting a public test server in like a month or so, and I will be covering all the new builds and features when that drops. And if you want to come ask me questions about the game or just come hang out live, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description alongside a link to my community Discord. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye.